arguably the most impressive thing about Good Charlotte, in my opinion, watching the arc of your career for the last decade or whatever. You guys have always been very mindful of paying it forward. Of you were talking about sleeping on couches, like you guys would bring bands from other countries over and have them sleeping on your couch. Like you've always been very part of the community in that sense. I'm curious where that comes from, because there's not a lot of humility with bands easily forget the band that took them out or whatever, and you guys have constantly you're managing bands now, not to skip too far ahead, but you're always very involved. There's a band here tonight over there that's with these dudes. Where does that come from? Where did that sort of family environment atmosphere thing develop with you guys?
I think it's I mean, I just think in general it's important to what goes around comes around. You have to, for me personally, and for him, and for the five of us in our band, and most of the people that I surround myself with in my business of music, think that way, and I think that lends to longevity in this business. Nothing, by the way, you were talking about, the quick, when you first got the success. I mean, nobody, it's an illusion. Nobody, gets the deal and then they're famous. There's always years.
There's no magic wand.
Right, so.
Golden ticket.
Yeah, so I just think that karmically, not to get too, like on the spiritual tip, but like, what you put out there is coming back, no matter what. So, and if people are helping you, you have to do the same to allow that. It's, the circular flow of it all, I think, right? And so I like talking about that sort of stuff. Who's helped me? The person that helped me get my first drum endorsement. I still hit him up and, how you doing? What can I do for you? Because you've done so much for me. Or I'll give back to young musicians. Hey man, I love Tama. Can I introduce you to the A&R guy? I like your playing. Because when I was little, my dream was to get free drums. That's what I wanted. I get a lot of free drums now. I'm very fortunate. But I worked hard for that, and somebody helped me do that too, because they saw something in me, and then I have to do the same thing in return. So.
Yep.
Anyway,
I think also just understanding and believing that. I think from an early age, I just wanted to be included and be in it all. I wanted to be friends with bands. That was my dream. I dreamed of being friends with bands, and now I get to be friends with all the bands. And I'm living my dream. I love bands. I like guys in bands. I like people who are creative. I like people who are interested in things. And people in the music business, I love the music business. It was my dream to be in the music business. So I read books and magazines and everything I could get my hands on when I was a kid to learn about the music business and how to do it. And I think also now, as I consciously am in the music business, like consciously, I think promoting a culture of optimism and in believing in people and their value. For me, I look at a room tonight and I see people who all have value and they have talent. And so in my mind, I'm sitting in a room and someone in this room is going to be the biggest thing in the world in some capacity, whether it's starting their own record label or being a manager or an artist or whatever. I don't know, you know what I mean? So I feel like to inspire and promote a culture where we all are positive and we believe in one another, it makes the business we're in a better place. And so that's kind of it sounds crazy, but that's the whole thing with our company, that we, DC Flag and all of our endeavors ended up morphing into this company we started a few years ago called MDDN, right? And the idea is a culture. It is about believing in artists and in creativity and talent and period. That's it. We believe in that. So we believe that everyone has that the music business is not a scary place where we're like letting fear dominate our decisions. It's a place where we believe in talented artists. You know how great managers become great? They work with great artists and talented artists. That's it. It's not a mystery. Like, but there's this curtain in the music business where you're like, how do I get a record deal? Well, or how does it happen? Well, it happens because you write a good song and then you go out and you work. And you know what? You do need a team. You do need a great manager and a great agent and a great, there's all these parts you need to succeed. It takes a team. But the team it's teamwork that achieves these things. Like Good Charlotte, if we didn't have a team and as a band and all the people that have been involved in our career, and I could name 10 people, there's no way that we could have done it alone. But it's important that we all understand that we're all working together and that when we build for me, it's about like a culture that we have to be a part of where, we treat each other the right way and we pay it forward and we're respectful of one another and we treat people with respect, and that's kind of what we believe in.
Can we bottle that and feed it to the music business? Because that.
Well, it's funny because
inspired, yeah.
But
yeah.
Well, the thing is that it's not. It's. I don't find it to be that rare actually. Like all the great people that I've met, and I've been around so many great artists, and I've been like people that have inspired me and that have had huge careers, and managers that are inspiring and have huge careers, and label guys who have found incredible bands, and all the great ones. I tend to see that a general thread. They understand that like everyone they meet is important in some way, and that I remember meeting interns in 1999 and 2000 that are now running departments and the heads of labels, and so you have to start somewhere, and everyone usually starts on the ground floor. So I believe in that.
Yeah, and I think to your point about the collaborative nature of assembling a team around you, like you said earlier, something I say all the time, there's no magic wand, and you also, golden ticket, I'm going to add that to my repertoire. But I always say if, Paul McGuinness had the blueprint for U2 in his filing cabinet, there'd be 100 U2s.
Exactly.
If Q Prime had the blueprint for Metallica, there wouldn't just be one Metallica. So it's all these elements that come together working in collaboratively with one another that make things happen. So I think, it's great to hear so much positivity because, you do often hear horror stories about record labels or managers or agents or promoters and I have also encountered so many great people who are in it for the right reasons, who are fighting the good fight against mediocrity and inauthentic stuff. And we should be propping up and talking about those people more and complaining about the villains less.
Yeah, there's tons of great people. Look, and you do have to have talent to make it as a artist or a songwriter, or you got to find your talent. If you want to be in the music business, it doesn't mean you just get to be in the music business and you work hard and then you're going to make it. It means like you have to find your talent. If you're not a songwriter, if you're not a rock star, if you're not a manager, like you've got to do the work and figure out where you fit in, because it's real. Like you have to be good to succeed. But creativity with effort equals you produce results. And so if you're creative about your approach and you I don't know how many of you actually go to school here. Okay, that's a decent amount. And then how many of you here just for the free water and at the water fountain, So you came to school to learn about the music business, or to get on the path for your career, which is smart, because you need the information, but you do have to find your talent, and then usually there's like moments that verify that. You know, when someone's like, "Fuck, that song's amazing." You know, when 10 people say it, like, then you're like on to something. You're like, oh, okay, people like my song. Like that's how. Like there's a very real process of like finding out like what your talent is, and you have to kind of, you know, you have to follow that as well.
I think that's something else important that you just hit upon, the idea of finding what your talent is and putting in the effort into what you want to focus on. Because I think a problem that has been a problem in our culture over the last 10, 15 years especially, you know, you always hear this university study that I think was done at Oxford, cited where, you know, you used to do surveys with kids and ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you would get astronaut, doctor, lawyer, you know, civic, whatever. And now you get famous. Not even movie star. At least movie star requires like something. You just get famous. Like,
well, it's a real thing now. You
can
get famous.
Yeah.
That's the world we live in. I honestly, I don't hate on it. If somebody wants to go out and be famous and like, doesn't really change my life. I think, you know, ultimately, I'm more interested in people that are doing something really well, and then they, you know, obviously there's that kind of famous where you're like, I'm really good at something, and
that's what I'm getting at for sure.
And then there's people who can just kind of want attention, and I'm not mad at that either. Though I don't know. I mean, I don't really. It's just the world we live in. Like it's the times, you know. I mean, and there may come a time when that changes. There may come a time where, as a culture, we move in it. You know, we move in directions. So I don't question the mass direction. I kind of just notice it, but you know, and it informs me on where we're at. You know, but it's definitely that's the times we live in for sure.
Yeah, and to me, a lot of art is about intention, right? So the intention behind it, it doesn't. You don't have to necessarily relate to the end product. Like that's for each person to discern. But I think if the intentions are good, if someone's trying to, if they have a point of view, and it doesn't have to be political, religious, it could just be expressing something about themselves. That's what I personally respond to, and I think that's a through line that you can see with stuff both of you guys have been involved with, and you know, been really picky about who we've had at this MI thing, because I think that's what's important, and I think that's the fight that needs to be fought.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Good Charlotte, because you're back.
Yeah.
Right? We're back.
We're back.
Now.
Who's that?
It's not. This isn't a situation where it's like, oh, the band is back, and you've been hibernating before now.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Madden Brothers record was an adventurous step out for you guys, and it's interesting because you were on that record. So, right? Like
I did some shows and
yeah.
we
so
worked together.
it's
Deb,
kind of
we're in
like
the studio
you know,
doing things.
We'll always work
Yeah.
together.
We work
Our whole
together
career.
on all stuff.
And I don't know that everybody here, since we are in America, it's America. I don't know if everybody knows that you've been on The Voice in Australia for like multiple seasons now, yeah?
Going into my fifth.
It's a big thing.
Fifth season.
You kind of live there, or you were kind of living there? Or?
You know, Australia is really interesting. It's like home away from home. It's definitely a culture that I've become it completely, you know, kind of immersed in, and it's definitely like home away from home. I mean, when I'm there, probably almost 3 months a year, and it's a place I love. I love the culture. I love the people, and I love working in entertainment down there.
Entertainment down there. Let's see. AC/DC, NXS.
Great bands. Great
Parkway
culture.
Drive, Silverchair, Crocodile Dundee.
Yep.
Amazing artist. Yeah, so I'm curious. I bring that stuff up because I'm
5
curious.
Seconds of Summer. Australian. Don't forget them.
I'm curious, and I was going to get to them actually, because there's some cross pollination, and I call it the Feldyverse. It's like the Marvel Cinematic
The
Universe.
Feldyverse.
That's
Feldman.
trademarked me. I want royalties when people use that. But no, I wanted to ask about The Voice and doing the Madden Brothers record, and all these other things, and how that has informed what Good Charlotte is going to be moving forward. All these different parts of yourself that you develop and learn and experience, and how that feeds back into the songs you're going to make and what you guys are going to do.
Well, it's your life definitely influences your creative side, and Good Charlotte it's extremely special to us, and we spent our youth, we gave it all to Good Charlotte, and then in about 2011 we kind of all wondered, like, who are we outside of this train that's been just going, and so we all just decided to shut it off and just go see what else there was out there. And it was kind of scary because that band was all we knew. In our life, every single day we were in Good Charlotte. So when you're on a tour bus in that like bubble going around the world constantly, and then going to make a record, and then going back, and I think what happened was on the fifth record we had all kind of we met our wives, and we were starting to have kids, and then that's when, like, I think to me, like, real life steps in, and kind of, it's like in the movies when they look in the puddle and they're like, who am I? And you look back and go, I don't know. Because you got to go, like, I'm more than these songs, I'm more than these shows, and I'm more than, like, what the world thinks I am. I've got to be, So we just shut it off, and we all just went to our lives, and that was it. And Benj and myself have always been very kind of like we just go after it. So we got, as soon as we went out, we were just like, what can we do? And I went and did the voice, and he was doing stuff, and we started writing and producing and kind of going really hard on that. And Dean's, one of probably the hardest working drummers I've ever met in my life, and he continues to work on records, and he's got a band on, he did the music on a TV show. He's toured with bands. He continues to just work. He's truly like a working class musician who just works and works and works and never stops. So you're always involved in some interesting stuff.
It's a really nice Wikipedia page. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it.
And Paul went back to school. He went to Berkeley. Billy started doing animation for Nickelodeon and Disney. He's like contracted by them to do animation. He's like, we all just kind of, and then our kids were growing up, and we just kind of found ourselves outside of the band. And obviously music was still the center of our lives, and how we expressed ourselves, and kind of what we did, because we didn't stop working. It's just, we stayed home, and we invested our time and our energy, a majority of our time and our energy, into our families, which I think is a good investment of your time and energy.
Especially when your kids are young, because it goes by, and then
you don't get it back.
Yeah.
So then we were working on a few records this year with Feldy. We worked on like All Time Low, Sleeping with Sirens.
You guys heard of any of these bands?
And we hadn't really touched the pop punk thing in a while, and then Feldy was like, can you come help me on these records? And we were like, of course. And we love the bands, and we love, obviously we know these bands, and we've definitely stayed kind of in touch with the scene, and
Kellen Quinn said to tell you hi, by the way, and that
I love
just
Kellen.
reminded me.
Kellen is one of my favorite guys in the world. I love Kellen. And so then we made this 5 Seconds of Summer record, and then after that, we kind of were, we were talking to Feldy, and we were like, man, it would feel good to make a pop punk record again. We're having so much fun. And he's like, why don't we make a Good Charlotte record? And then we called the band, and we were like, what do you guys think? I definitely wanted to. I was like, man, I haven't written for Good Charlotte in a long time, and I'm a different person when I'm writing Good Charlotte songs than when I'm writing other people's songs. It's just different. And we all got together. We got our kids together. It was really cool. And we all just kind of like went and made this record. We're putting the finishing touches on it now. It's one of the best records we've ever made. And it's really new and interesting. And it's fresh.
And then it turns into the Blues Brothers, right? Where it's like, we're getting the band back together.